Basically, relative to the given days, like most probable market cycle phases that were in play, relative to how each of the time frames that I analyse as recent bars had closed the way they did amongst the regions of the push that was in play, that them recent bars closed the way they did, so that it would make sense that the daily was to reverse soon. The 12, the same thing. The 8 kind of, it didn't really. Would it just held the same significance, a bullish bar closing right at the very low region of a push to the downside, signifying that a reversal is likely to take hold soon. The 4 hour kind of did look like they had some steam left to the upside. The 7 hour also, bear in mind, had a wick rejection to the upside and closed bullish, but this also occurred at the very low region of an overextended push to the downside, which had already begun to show somewhat signs of wick rejecting at the very low region of. The 2 hour kind of closed. It closed with a bullish, like a nice range expansion bar at the overextended region of the push to the upside, with a slight wick rejection at the very overextended high region, signifying that a reversal could possibly take place. Now, relative to each of these time frames, you would want to see the 1 hour set up appropriately. So, basically, I mean, like, you get this wick reject, and then you could just look for a 50, like, so you get a nice 15 wick rejection bar close. Um, yeah, yeah, that would be fine. And then you just look for the 15M thing, like 15M, like protocol of looking for like ISL QS, blah 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 blah. And then it was the same for Euro. We needed to see a nice 1 hour bar close here. Um, and so for GU, the way this 1 hour bar closed the way it did would have been suitable for like its given day, right? But for the Euro, if I just quickly, I'm not even going to emulate real time here. I'm just going to have the chart here and emulate it in my head. So this is the recent bar close, by the way. Mhm. 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 Okay, so mhm. I mean, it wasn't really that strong of a case to push higher, I have to say. hmm Like, look at the 7 hour. Yes, it's like, well, first of all, it's kind of sat amongst the high region of its push to the upside, and then it's wick rejecting at the very high region of, but then the 8 hour It's again sat at the high region of its push to the upside. Yes, it's relatively recently emerged, but still you don't care about that. You just focus on how the in-play and push itself set up and how the most recent bar closed the way it did, while sat amongst whatever region that is, and it's sat right at the very high region, closing right at its highs, signifying that yes, there is possible room for further expansion, which the 4 hour did also back up. So definitely, longs were definitely valid because like 12 hour did also have a wick reject. So if you actually look at it emulate in real time, you do have a wick reject bar close right at the very low region of its push to the downside. Yes, it did have quite a decent wick rejection to the upside though too. So, but still, you're ultimately wick rejecting the very low region of which would have to be investigated. And anyway, yeah, that it does become clear. We'll just go with it. That yeah, it's at the high region of its push to the upside, closing relatively at its highs. But then the 7 hour did also have weak rejection at the high region of its push to the upside. Then the 4 closed relatively at its highs. And then the 2 hour closed like at the overextended region of its push to the upside with a slight wick rejection at the very high region of. But then none of that paired up with the 7 hour. But then like the context of like the 8 and the 4 likely having further expansion room to the upside, and the 12 hour likely to reverse, and the daily also showing somewhat of wick rejection, which is then revealed. Ultimately, first of all, as of 7, you would just want to see a nice 1 hour bar close at the 06. And then it evolves the push, and then anyway, you're getting like a bar wick reject bar close here. Um, oh, because like this GU bar close, it like didn't really have that much of a high top end wick, right? But this did. It had a kind of a not decent wick rejection to the upside, and then this, and it was kind of like a doji bar close. So to be honest, you would kind of want to wait for another bar close here, and like a bit less of a upside top side wick rejection, and then or it's just a bit too weighted on the bearish side. So you would like just based on the given day's iffiness, like if for example it was a bit more like if there was a bit more like oomph behind the most probable market cycle phases actually turning upwards, and flipping bullish, for example, like flipping bullish, not that British term like oh flipping hell, no, like actually like flipping bullish, or like with wick rejection shown at the very lows, like, and it just looks a bit more prominent of like a reversal likely to take hold. um you would then it didn't really have that on this day. So yeah, this wouldn't really be valid, to be honest, in my opinion. It's just a bit too iffy. You would want to wait for another bar close, and maybe if the next bar close like this too, that's okay. But ultimately, if this had a bit more of a larger bottom side wick rejection than the top, and it wasn't equal, basically, yeah, this would be okay. But no, that's not the case. So, like for example, if this next bar closed like it like this, and then closed like about up here, that would be really good actually, and then you could then look for your ISL QS. But yeah, anyway, that's it. So that's my outlook for today. Well, it's not really an outlook anymore, but you get what I mean.